Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Vito Fossella here at Midland Beach. As a boy from South Beach, Midland Beach. We went to school a few blocks away,
Yep.
150 years ago. Now, unfortunately, we're here again, and regrettably, this won't be the last time. By way of history, a few years ago, the city of New York started meandering through something called the City of Yes. It always sounds great, right? The City of Yes, beautiful, like universal daylighting. See these parking spots here? They'll be gone if universal daylighting gets passed, and that they all tie together. It's a city giving Staten Island something Staten Island does not want and cannot absorb. So under the City of Yes, they were going to address the so-called crisis, the housing crisis, and we aggressively lobbied the city then, administration and others, to say that one size shouldn't fit all. If you have problems in other parts of the city, so be it. And if there are elected officials and communities that want more and more housing, more density, then so be it. We spent the 1990s fighting to downzone much of Staten Island to establish and maintain a certain character and integrity to a lot of the neighborhoods. We're undoing that. The city's undoing the progress that was made. Recently, we were in Great Kills. We were knocking one house down and going to put up 10 houses. And the bottom line is this one house that's been here since about, I'm told, the 1950s, there's a good chance there'll be 10 two-family homes. So 20 families will replace one family. And the parking, that's a challenge already around here, will become a greater challenge. This infrastructure, we don't know the capacity of the sewer system here, whether it can handle it. And we just keep banging the drum until somebody in the city of New York hears us. You know, I see folks going around the city saying they're going to listen to the community. Well, we're speaking loud and clear. We don't want this. We don't want to knock down one house and put 20 houses in its place without any understanding of its impact on, again, the infrastructure, the school system. We don't know. And this is bad policy that's resulting in a bad product. I'm not going to take issue with the owners or whatever. He's got an arbitrage situation. I don't like it. The focus and the fix would be if the city comes out here and says, hey, listen, we got a bunch of single-family homes here. There's a contextual concept here, contextual zoning. You know what? We're only going to allow something that fits in that context. Like in Great Kills, and there are other spots around the island, they're bragging about it. How they're going to come in and knock a house down and put up 10, 20 houses. It's just not right. You know, and there are those who think that, I believe very strongly in property rights. The first thing communists or socialists do very often is they take the communications out and they take property rights, they burn the churches, right? So I believe in property rights, and I believe that when people buy a home, they're not just buying a house, they're buying a community, they're buying a neighborhood, they're saying, hey, there's a great school down the block, there's a house for sale, we're able to save, you know, the wife is working, the husband's working, they're living in an apartment, maybe they're living in a parent's house to save money so they can buy their dream home. And then along comes the city to say, we're going to abolish all that, we're going to do away with it. Like, we don't care. And as an aside, I know there are those recently who talked about white supremacy and home ownership. And this is insane. It's insane what's happening. And the people of Staten Island are getting screwed. Homeowners are getting screwed. There is a fix. The fix is to come out here, the city agencies that did this, and say, we hear you. We want to help you fix it. So that's why we're here. We may have lost this battle. I don't know. I hope we don't. But we're here to bring attention to it, to highlight it, and prevent it from happening going forward. That's our job. With us are folks from the Midland Beach Civic Association who do a good job bringing attention to quality of life issues here. I'd like to call up the one of them right now, Sal.
Good morning, everyone. So basically last night we went to land use conference, and we met with the contractor. We have nothing against contractors that want to build on Staten Island. It's quality life for Midland Beach. 7 units on Slater here is going to be 48 cars. You're going to have another 18 cars coming off that street there. Our sewers, we need to know. We need to know from the DP if the sewage is going to hold what he wants to put here. It's not set in stone what he's going to put here yet because it's not in the building department yet. So before it gets into the building department, we asked him. We came out. We told him we're opposed against his project until the building department has the plans. DEP can come back with an engineer report to tell the community that the sewers are going to be fine for this area. And the next thing, these houses have to be built to the new code of a power. All right, we don't know if the grid in our community is going to hold it. Do they have to get more power to the community? Because we have power outs as it is now. So that's the questions we put out last night as the civic leaders. We're hoping he comes back to Community Board 2 on the open board meeting, give us the answers that we need. You're talking about 20 families moving in here. Greeley Avenue, the traffic is bad as it is. We're going to add more cars, and DOT, we removed some driving lanes on Staten Island with bike lanes. So you added more cars, less lanes, it's going to cause more traffic. We have schools, IS2, PS 38, children are coming here. Are these schools going to handle more kids to these schools? They did, in 50 years, 60 years, they didn't change the classroom sizes. I'm going to let the president of Civic, George Tomo, come up and speak next.
How are you, George Tomo? Sal probably hit everything on the head right there. My main concern is the power. We had over 6 power outages along here, and we also have 15 resilient homes going up, which is another, with the rental, is going to be 30. So you're talking 30 or 40 here. You're talking a lot of people, a lot of kids. The school I went to 52 years ago, they have a gymnasium that's an all-purpose room. They don't even have a gymnasium for the kids. You know what I mean? And it's just, nothing has been changed here. Egbert is still the same way as I left it. I had 3 generations go there. Nothing has changed. Maybe the way they teach now, but that's about it. Our concern here, this is actually, if you look at the grade comes down. This is another resting spot for water. This is another concern right here. This goes underneath the street. There was, at one time, it detained the water that came down from Toad Hill, and it came through the back of Miller Field. But like I said, me and Sal took over this neighborhood civic because we lived here so long. We're giving it our all. We're coming here just to help out the neighbors and bring it to their attention. You know what I mean? The neighborhood has changed from little bungalows to houses to privately owned. It used to be a summer spot. It's no longer a summer spot. It's a residential area. And, listen, like I said, the guy was a good guy last night. He talked, he answered all his questions. But we just want to bring our concerns to him. I want to thank him for being approachable. But then again, at the end of the day, we got to watch for our neighborhood and our best interests. Thank you.
Well done, George. Yeah, so you just heard from 3 Egbert boys. We don't forget where we come from. And as I mentioned at the very outset, I grew up in South Beach. George talks in a very nice way about the progress that's been made. Used to have flooding. Flooding was crazy back in the day. Folks used to come from Manhattan, other places, rent summer bungalows in South Beach and Midland Beach. And now you see progress. People investing and working their tails off to raise their family in a nice neighborhood. And just to go full circle, if the city hears us, we'd like for them to come out and say, we understand your concern. When we started the conversation a few years ago, they said, yes, we hear you, Staten Island. You want some flexibility. You're different. One size should not fits all. But the city gave this to us anyway. Here we are. Any questions?
Mr. BP, I guess, how bad can this get? Because I think a lot of people on this island, maybe they haven't even been following our stories. They just
Right.
see yes, they don't know what it is. It's only the people immediately in these blocks that know the real impact. I guess, what's your message for those people who haven't been paying attention, and how bad could this really get for you?
That's a very good question, and in part, people have their lives. You work hard. People work in Manhattan, for example. They're commuting 2 hours, an hour and a half each way. Let's say they come home. They got young kids. They got their own lives to live. So it's understandable if they're unaware, that's my job, to make them aware and to bring attention to it where and when possible, and to try to effectuate positive change. So, like, I'm trying to be their voice. With all that said, folks should be aware that this stuff is coming and will happen across Staten Island because of the new city policy that we tried to stop. But the city overwhelmingly gave this to us. I want to credit the Staten Island Advance, frankly, for being a bullhorn during that process to call this out. And they made the public aware that this would be a problem, which is why we're here today. I just say, folks, contact the city, contact whoever, city council, mayor's office, the city agencies, to say enough is enough. Let's at least put the brakes on what's happening and create a change. Are we part of this city or what? People talk about now secession. I just feel the bubblings of secession moving. This would not have happened if Staten Island was its own separate city, I believe. So these are the things that call into question our future. And we're trying to bring attention to it every chance we can.
There's people who, they look at this and they say, oh, affordable housing, right, sounds great. But on an island like this, where, we see so many issues with traffic, or parking, like you said, and you hear from the city, like, oh, quality of life, yeah, we hear you, Staten Island. I mean, what does that make you feel as a VP when it's kind of just, they say it, but push it aside?
I think many in the city really don't give a damn about Staten Island. They just don't care. We get bike lanes. The city wants to impose bike lanes. I know we locally have great borough commissioner, but the folks in the city say, give them more bike, take more driving lanes away, make driving as miserable as possible. Take Highland Boulevard starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, beginning in Dungan Hills, and try to get to Oakwood. Right? That's frustration, congestion, and now here come, as mentioned, 40, 50 more cars just on this area right here. So it's possible to pivot. It's possible to begin to make changes and address the concerns we have. But recently, and now, I don't really see that happening. I hate to use the word frustrating, but we have to try to do something about it. But clearly, our main concerns are not being addressed.
No, just we don't let them know this ain't affordable housing.
Good point, George. Yeah, so I hear the words. They love words and affordable housing, this and that, and that's fine. As I mentioned, if people in other parts of the city, and I know friends of mine who are elected officials and community folks, they say, we want more housing, more affordable. Good, take it. But when you have here, sometimes there's first generation, maybe there's a first family that went to college, and they worked their tails off, and they're proud when they close on their first home, and they say, I made it. And then along come folks who say, let's just slap some houses up there, even if it's not reflective of what the community looks like or what they want. It's wrong. It's wrong. Well, all right, guys. Thank you, everybody.